Alright, you're listening to Nerding Out with Nick Dean, an audio-video version of a column I write monthly for both the Post-Journal and the Dunkirk Observer. The article itself hits print the first Sunday of each month in both papers, and for the first time, you're listening to it here as a YouTube video. As its name implies, Nerding Out is primarily a column about comic books, but is sometimes also about movies, music, comic book movies, and whatever else I feel like ranting about in a given month. For the June issue, I wrote primarily about a new collection put out by DC Comics called Wednesday Comics, but I kicked the issue off with a reflection. I've been writing Nerding Out for 11 months now, and Nerding Out really grew out of my having gotten back into comics. I started buying comics again about a year and a half ago, after a good long time away from buying comics. So the article kicked off with the following. Last year was a good time to get back into comics. Maybe I'm just biased, what with it having been the start of a really good run for Batman comics. Truthfully, though, my appreciation of comic books in recent months has been because of more than just the Cape Crusader. From Marvel's Noir line and the Invincible Iron Man, World's Most Wanted run, to DC's Blackest Night, Brightest Day, and just about everything Vertigo, my monthly budget for comic books has surpassed my music allowance, which, as anyone who knows me knows, that means it's getting bad. I think part of the problem is that I'm overcompensating for time lost. For too long, I had separated myself from the weekly ritual of eyeing the new releases rack at that hallowed purveyor of superheroism, the friendly neighborhood comic shop. But now I'm back on the wagon, or off the wagon, depending on how you look at it, and as I said last year, or as I said earlier, both last year and 2010 so far this year have been a good time to be back into reading comic books. Though I didn't pick it up in serial form, last summer's Wednesday Comics, which I focus on this month, is just one of the many reasons for it to be a good time back into reading comic books. But really, though, isn't any time a good time to be back into reading comic books? So, Wednesday Comics. Last summer saw the release of DC's Wednesday Comics, a 12-issue limited series that was closer to a newspaper than a regular comic book. Each week, for 12 consecutive weeks, DC published these one-page story segments in a 14-inch by 20-inch broadsheet form. So, the format, you had to go to the comic shop, or maybe you got it mailed to you if you're a subscriber, and it looked, at first, like a normal comic book size comic book printed on newspaper print, but the comic book unfolded, and unfolded into the size of what your typical size newspaper looks like. I thought about jumping on the series around issue 3, but figured it would eventually come out in a collected form, so I waited. And I am more than happy with my decision to wait. Released late last month to comic book stores, and earlier this month to other retailers, I think, the $50 hardcover is well worth every penny spent on it. At first, I toyed with the idea of reading the collection in the way it was released. One page from every story at a time. But the way the hardcover is structured, with all the stories collected together, makes for a much more satisfying read. You get all the Batman pages first, then all the Superman pages, then all the Teen Titans pages, and so on. And it really is a different way to read the collection than the way it was published. I don't envy the people who had to wait each month just to get another one-page installment of their favorite story. This way, reading it all together, you just get to read it as probably the writers and artists and creators of these stories envisioned, one in succession after the other. Reading the stories in their entirety, I believe, does the whole project more justice. Take, for instance, Neil Gaiman's Metamorpho story. There's a 2-page spread in that story that was, I think, always meant to be seen side by side by the artist and the author. Readers who picked up their issues one by one didn't get to experience it that way. And again, I think it's an oversized hardcover that's well worth every penny of its $50 price. Interestingly enough, I thought the weakest stories in the collection were the ones focused on DC's best-known characters. I really wanted to like the Batman and the Superman stories, but found that the tales of other characters, like Commandy and Deadman and Metamorpho were just much more compelling. Perhaps it's because of the writers or even the artists that were assigned to each story, but I think part of it has to do with not knowing too much about those characters. And I think our writers like Neil Gaiman and the others, the Commandy story in particular, did a really good job of introducing someone unfamiliar to longtime readers. Of course, that's just me being nitpicky. Even the weaker stories were still, I think, great stories, if for nothing else than their artwork, which throughout this collection came off as larger than life. But that's enough about Wednesday Comics. Also in DC Comics news, in advance of the feature film Jonah Hex that'll be opening this month, DC Comics has released an original graphic novel by the Jonah Hex writing team of Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, with illustrations by veteran Jonah Hex artist Tony DeZunga. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so we'll go with that. In the new graphic novel, Jonah Hex No Way Back, readers discover how Jonah's rough family life transformed him into a justice-thirsty vigilante. It's set against the gritty landscape of the Wild West, as all Jonah Hex comics, I'm pretty sure, are. This original graphic novel has been called heartbreaking and brutal. I just finished it, but I will save my review for next month's edition of Nerding Out. It was my introduction to Jonah Hex, and I'm eager to see the movie, but I'll leave it at that. The book, this new Jonah Hex graphic novel, No Way Back, went on sale June 2nd. Check back, as I said, next month for a full review in the July issue of Nerding Out with Nick Dean. But I think I'm going to leave it at that for this month. I skipped over some stuff that was in the print edition, so if you get a chance, pick up either a copy of the Sunday, June 6th editions of either the Post-Journal or the Dunkirk Observer for the full column, and let me know what you think about this YouTube video version of Nerding Out. Nerding Out comes out monthly, as I said, in both newspapers. It's the first Sunday of each month. Comments, criticisms, ideas for submission, all that can be sent via email to ndean@post-journal.com or by calling the newsroom at 487-1111, extension 251. That's area code 716-487-1111, extension 251. Thanks for listening if you've made it this far. It's my first attempt at a long-form narration audio-video version of my column, and as long as I don't look back later this month and think that it sucked or really hate the sound of my voice, maybe we'll be doing a monthly in the future. So, thanks again.
Why don't we